of all the sports teams that exist, certain countries have a big one or two, but we're proud to say our podcast is about the biggest team in the entire world.
And the only thing else I got to say is, how about them Cowboys?
Yeah! This is the World's Team Podcast. All about the world's team, the Dallas Cowboys, baby. We're here to redefine what it means to be a fan of the gridiron game. It's not just America's team anymore. Nope. We're taking that star-studded pride and spreading it across the globe. Each week, we dive into all things Cowboys. From game analysis that'll have you on the edge of your seat, to reactions and all the latest news. Whether it's free agency frenzy, draft day drama, or injury reports that make us want to hug our lucky jerseys a little tighter. We're bringing in fan groups from all over the place, from Germany, France, Brazil, the UK, Canada, Japan. Everybody gets to share their 2 cents on America's favorite team.
And here we go!
America's team, Mexico's team, world's team, my Dallas Cowboys.
And now your hosts, Paul Stewart and Mike Poland.
Good morning, Cowboys Nation. It is the 3rd of August 2024, and welcome to another episode of the World's Team, bringing in Dallas Cowboys fans from all across the world. I am your host, Paul Stewart, and I am joined, as always, you can find him on bloggingtheboys.com. It's no other than the Welsh Dragon himself, Mr. Mike Poland. How are we doing, brother?
Yeah, we're good. It's another beautiful weekend, boiling hot in a scorching week, but scorching in weather and scorching in football news. A lot happened in this last week, Paul, but how are you doing, fella?
I'm not too bad. I mean, it's in terms of scorching, we're getting a little bit of light drizzle in terms of the rain and stuff back here, but other than that, I can't complain. It's actually been nice. Took my dog out for a walk. He's absolutely knackered. All good. So, but yeah, we have a lot to cover today, Mike. A lot.
Yeah. A lot has happened in the last week.
Yeah, so as everyone knows, you can tell by the title of our thumbnail and the title of this video of the podcast, we're now into week 2 of training camp, and there's been a lot of good positives to come by. Also, a couple of downsides, a little bit of disappointments, but that's the beauty of training camp. There's some players are not rising up to the occasion, some players with high expectations are falling down the order, but we're here to cover it. But so let's just dive straight into it, Mike. So the first thing just to bring up, obviously, the bad news is defensive end Sam Williams is now in injury reserve. I believe it's an ACL.
Yes, yeah, ACL injury as well. They're saying that he's having the medical procedure in August to get it done early. I mean, you know, we know Sam. He's a good friend. We've spoken to him numerous times.
Yeah.
Great guy. It's a shame it's happened. You know, you try and take during this dark moment for Sam some positives from it, some optimism. The optimism, as bad as it is, you say it happened early in camp, which means that Sam Williams' recovery, when you think about it, he's going to be ready for OTAs next season. Also, with it being so early in camp, the team have time to adjust and, you know, find replacements for this and make the changes that they need nice and early in camp. So these are just, you know, you always expect in training camp to have an injury. The Cowboys have had their injury. Hopefully that's it. I mean, there's niggles here and there. You get that along the way. These guys are practicing hard. But you just hope that they've had their setback for the season and when it happened nice and early.
I know. I mean, it's not nice to see players going down an injury. And like you mentioned, Sam Williams, we're a good friend of his through our sponsor Cowboys Experience. We've had the pleasure of talking, sitting with Sam, get to hang about with him, not just online through podcasts, but also in person through Cowboys Experience. And he's just a lovely stand-up guy, great player, and we wish him all the speedy recovery.
Of course.
And that, so we just wish you, Sam, get back soon as possible, Sam, and rest up, my friend. But in relation to what you're saying there, Mike, try and find replacements. The Cowboys have brought in Shaka Tony and Al Quadan Muhammad. So tell me more about them, Mike.
Yeah, well, obviously you've got the one guy, Shaka Tony from Washington. I mean, we know him, we've seen him various times. I mean, like, would you say he's the peak Shaka Tony we all kind of have seen in the past? I don't know. He has been on the field. We've seen him in practice on Friday. Movement wise, he looked fine. He looked fluid. He looked loose, which is good. In terms of AQM, he's another guy who's probably on the downside of things. Kind of, it's odd to describe his career, but these are both guys, because they did as well have Carl Lawson in. I'm kind of expecting to be Carl Lawson, but I think they've gone here for two guys that have some relative upside. They're a little bit cheaper than Carl Lawson. I don't think both of these guys make the roster. One of them will. Maybe perhaps two do. And, we see a complete change on the final 53. But they've gone here for as many eggs in the basket rather than stick with Carl Lawson and hope for the best.
Yeah. Like, the thing with the likes of Shaka Tony is, right, and I'm not trying to compare in terms of career or anything like that, but he did have a good start at Washington, then he obviously dipped. But I think with now him going into a more simplified system under Mike Zimmer, and again, I am going to be referencing. I'm going to be referencing a lot of Mike Zimmer influence in this defense throughout training camp and this season along. Because I like, the more I'm seeing it, the more I'm actually on board with this. So the way I'm thinking here, with Tony now coming into a more simplified playbook, and like you said, his feels a bit more fluid, like he's got all that. It almost kind of gives me a feeling of Robert Quinn in a way.
Yeah, I like that.
When you think about it.
Yeah, like for trying to get this sudden 1 year wonder out of him to squeeze these last inches of football.
Exactly. So that's where I'm kind of thinking. Obviously, Tony is not near the same type of player that Robert Quinn is, but it could be that sudden dip and shift back up again to try and get himself into a better position to be on this roster. So I think that is where my head's at with Tony. But I mean, don't get me wrong, he's actually a decent player. I mean, I've just got his biography up here right now. So I mean, he's recorded his first career sack against Seattle Open April 21st, 2003, but he was suspended indefinitely by the league by basically illegal betting pretty much on NFL games. Yeah. So, and he was released by the team. So he's getting a second chance. It's not like he's lost his performance. It was more due to being silly, essentially. So, but and that's the one thing with the Cowboys. We always seem to get players a lot of good second chances. Like we've got who was the middle Rolando?
Oh, Rolando McClain.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, so we gave a lot of players second chances. Even Greg Hardy a second chance in football. Like, and that's the thing. Like, and some of these players do turn out to be great. Like don't get me wrong. Like, there was still a lot of controversy with Greg Hardy, but he still produced in the field from time to time. And Rolando McClain was fantastic in that 1 year we had him. Then obviously he signed him to a longer-term deal. He was somewhat more just kind of like steady, like he did his job, but it wasn't really have a standout. But it seems to be like whenever we take this gamble on second chance players for like 1 year contracts, it always seems to kind of benefit and really does work out. So I'm not
get a resurgence out of them.
Exactly. So so I'm not going to criticize the front office or anything like that to say like why are we doing here? Like why are we making players like signing players like this as well as worked in the past. So but
and I will say I muddled my guys up. I said that Shaka Tony's on the downward part of his career. I meant That's more Muhammad. So Muhammad's coming up to 28 years of age. He's been longer. Shaka Tony is obviously the other way around. Yeah,
and he's the younger player as well.
Yeah. So I muddle them around before somebody sitting on the podcast going, "What's he on about?"
yeah. So, like, just to give you a bit more backstory. So, Tony was drafted from Penn State in the 2021 draft, round 7, pick 246th. And he's basically only recorded, I believe, just one sack in his career. And obviously, back in 2023, he was indefinitely suspended by the NFL for betting on NFL games, and he was reinstated in 2024. Then was subsequently released by the team 4 days later. And obviously, as of August 1st, 2024, a couple of days ago, he signed with the Dallas Cowboys. So it's a second chance. I don't know too much about Al-Quadin. I don't know too much about him. That's something I will need to look more information on, but I do know more about Shaq because obviously divisional rival, stuff like that, and obviously the news of him doing what he did. So, but I
would say with AQM, I know his last year with the Colts was actually not bad. I think he was like second or third on the team in sacks, and he racked up about 50 odd tackles, a bunch of tackle for losses, and I think he was on about 7 or 8 sacks.
So he brought in a good contribution to the Colts defense for sure. Right?
Yeah, and then he moved on. Then he went off to where did he go? NFC North. I think it was the Bears.
I'll just double check for you right now.
Yeah. I know it was the North he went to.
So Al-Quadin, he was drafted by the New Orleans Saints in 2017.
Yeah.
No. So he was drafted there. Then on 2018 to 2021, he played for the Colts. Then in 2022, went to the Bears. Then last season, he was only on the practice squad with the Colts. Then now he's with the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And in terms of his total career, total of 157 tackles with 12 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery, and 1 pass deflection. So it's like for him being like just a squad player, he's actually built up a good little like statistic So and him being a 6th rounder. So interesting to see. I'll be very curious to see what he's going to bring towards our defense for under Mike Zimmer. But speaking of which, though, Mike.
Yes.
Mazi Smith. It's been looking all right. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. There has been a couple of plays where he's been like getting himself a little bit crosshair, but he's been eating up those double teams. It's been helping out. He's been doing the job that he's been supposed to be doing. Is eating up these double teams that help free up space and open up the gaps for like our linebackers or open a stunt for our defensive end to cut back inside. So that is good news to see. Obviously, I still think sometimes he still gets doesn't disengage from the blocks as quickly as enough, but there's still room for improvement compared to last year. It's still a big step up.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's massive. So what is interesting, I found out from Mickey Spagnola, is that during the off season he went back to Michigan because I remember when we were talking about him being drafted, and one of the things I mentioned is the Michigan gym had to change their equipment because nothing was heavy enough for him. Yeah. So they had to upgrade all the gym equipment. So he went back to Michigan to basically use their gym to bulk back up. We're seeing him at a much heavier. He's looking about 310, 350.
I was going to say 210. I was later than me.
Yeah, he's turned into a cornerback.
My God.
So, he's like somewhere between 310 and 320 now, which is a nice healthy weight for him. And you're seeing that. We've seen it on practice, most definitely on Friday. That dude was anchoring the center of that line and just killing any chance of any inside runs. He was doing it a lot. This is impressive what we're seeing. What we want to see is him now stacking practices up, which he has all week. He's been stacking good practices. I think maybe perhaps we'll see him in a preseason game where the guys are going to kind of just throw him in and see what we can get, see how it looks.
Well,
Definitely looking, like you say, much more positive than last year. And he's looking, I would say, more on pace as a first-round defensive lineman again.
Yeah, I'm still going to throw my questions in that one.
Of course.
I'm still going to hold back on that. Like, I want Massey Smith to really pan out and really pace off. Like, if it helps improve our run defense, fantastic. But in terms of a pass rush, though, it's still a bit of a question. We know he's not the best of pass rushing, and especially in the interior, and we get to see that because with Cooper Beebe doing one-on-ones essentially. So there was a drill where, and I believe it was Nick Harris from DallasCowboys.com was posting some of the video clips of it, and you can see likes of Cooper Beebe looking fantastic, going one-on-one with Massey Smith, holding his ground, not getting forced back into the pocket. Looked really good. The only downside, though, for Cooper Beebe's point of view, is the snaps.
Yeah. So I was speaking to some people over in Dallas 2 weeks ago, and they were saying how Cooper Beebe has been going around the San Frisco carrying a ball. They're making him carry a ball, and whenever somebody says he's got to snap the ball to them, he's practicing those snaps. Most of the snaps.
I slated that last week. Now I'm you know what? I at that point now, after seeing what's been going on in the field, I was like, okay, yeah, I think any time to get those extra snaps, just get it going. So it's changed my opinion on that. So
yeah, most of his snaps are fine, but what we saw on Fridays, you were saying with the drills, we were just seeing a few errant shotgun snaps. It seems to be the longer shotgun snaps he's having a little difficulty getting some accuracy, and there's 3 different ways a center can snap the ball, and he's got to learn all of those ways to do it. The 3 different techniques. Once he gets it down, I think once he gets one, the rest will just come fluidly with him, and it's all about being natural with it. There was a certain guy at practice, and I think it would have behooved him to get as much information out of that guy as possible who was there.
I wonder who it could be. Wouldn't it be former Dallas Cowboys center Mr. Travis Frederick?
Second time he was there, and I tell you something, Paul. I commented on it to Brad Sham. I was like, "Have you seen how tanned he looks? How much nice weather are they getting up in Wisconsin lately?"
You'd be quite surprised. I think they actually get really good weather. So it's not like if you're up in Seattle, it feels like you're in Glasgow most of the time, where it's pretty much 60% rain and you only need 10% of sunshine. So sorry to anyone from Seattle, but it's kind of true. It is true. So but speaking, keeping on in the subject of the offensive line, Tyler Guyton. Oh my goodness. He is looking great. I'm sorry. He is looking great.
Yeah. I mean, we posted on the UK Cowboys a comment Smith made on him saying, look, for a guy of his size, of his height, he moves very light on his feet, very well, very good bend. They were saying he's going to be a problem for defensive linemen. I was a little bit concerned, right? Both of us were, right, Paul? That week 1, we were heading into Cleveland, who are just like that team. Oh, you can say what you want about them, but they are a sack monster machine over there. And there's one particular guy we have to be careful about.
Miles Garrett,
yeah. And this dude is always up there as defensive player of the year. He's always up there in sacks. And we were thinking, God, he's going to face Guyton in week 1. My confidence level is raised.
My confidence level is raised is when Michael Parsons actually beat him on the line of scrimmage. He was already past him, but it was the recovery to pull back and get back and re-engage with his hip line.
Fire back into his
that to me is like, holy crap, that is fantastic. Like the fact that he knew he was beaten, but he managed to somehow take that kick step back and reposition himself and get back onto the hip side of Micah Parsons and force him out wide. I was just like, holy crap.
Yeah.
I was blown away. Absolutely blown away. And
it was always a concern for us.
Absolutely. But the more like I am beginning to get so much more confident with the Tyler Guyton pick, 100%. Obviously, it still has a wee couple of there, like just like BB, like Mazzy Smith, they still have things to work on, but it's a good start. It's a good start.
Definitely.
Like, is Tyler Guyton going to get somewhat exposed depending who he's going to be up against? There's no doubt about that. He's going to be learning that as he gets along through his career. It was the same with Tyron Smith in his rookie season. He made some mistakes. He managed to learn from those mistakes, and he became one of the best left tackles in the league. And that just comes to show it's a stepping stone curve, like where you're like learn from your mistakes, how to build upper body strength, how to use your hands better, like how to readjust your foot positioning and kick stepping.
Footwork,
the footwork. It's just like the footwork. I was just like I keep saying, like Tyler Guyton specifically said, like I much prefer playing on the left. He always stated that, and it's now coming to show. Like I know it's only training camp, but I am really excited to see how much he's going to feature in this first preseason game, and we can actually get to see him against actual opposition rather than his teammates. Because it's going to give him there's going to be a lot of unknowns. He doesn't know some of these players. Or who is our first game? Is it the Rams?
Yes.
Like, so we don't, obviously there's no Aaron Donald for like Tyler Smith and Cooper Beebe or Brock Hoffman to worry about. But end of the day, whoever that defensive end is, Tyler Guyton is trying to so many
Tylers,
so many Tylers, so many Smiths,
many Jalen's.
Oh my God. I know it's getting it's getting ridiculous. It really is.
That's what they draft.
Yeah, but the point is that like Guyton will know that it's like I don't know what this guy's strengths are. Like, does he like to throw like club moves? Does he like to like spin moves or anything like that? Like it really like he's going to learn that on the fly as that game progresses. Whereas at training camp, he's seeing his teammates every day. Like he's keeping an eye out. He's scouting his own teammates. What's their best attributes? What's their worst attributes? But with a short time of game film, etc., it's a lot. Like not just for Guyton, but for all the offensive linemen to really assess what are these traits of these defensive linemen. Like going from a week to week basis, and that's something that people don't really talk about that much, is the scouting part.
Yeah,
no one really like. I don't think people don't really talk about how important it is to review film in football, like especially against your upcoming opponent. You'll look at their last game or your last couple of games and to say, look how that player did this, look at how that player did that. We need to watch that. Like people like that. We just need to ensure like this is a really key important part of being a player in the NFL, not just for offensive line, but for every position. For like the cornerbacks, look at wide receivers. What routes do they prefer to do? All that type of stuff. So, but anyway, I've kind of ranted on about that. Just off-balled it, but just to kind of keep on the theme of offensive line, as Brock Hoffman has also been looking good as well.
He's really very good, yeah. I mean, like the thing I think.
So what I was going to say was, it's like now with Hoffman looking good and obviously BB looking good, but still has things to work on. I still think Brock Hoffman, as of right now, is going to be center number one. As of right now,
yeah,
I think still eventually when things get nailed out, it will be Cooper BB, but I don't think it's going to be much of a battle of the center position as we've anticipated it was going to be. I think personally.
I have quite a sneaky, exciting way of looking at this. Is let's say Hoffman. I've always said it. That Hoffman is that type of center who's never going to blow your mind, but he's never going to blow the game for you. He's never going to be the reason that you lost that game. That's how I see Hoffman.
That's the thing, though. Offensive linemen don't like, and it's sad but true. What I'm about to say here, offensive linemen don't blow people's minds unless someone gets completely demolished or pancaked to the way out the stadium, like Lally Allen's did.
Or you're like you and me that love offensive line play.
Like, I think the only time I can recall someone actually doing that was Travis Frederick against Pittsburgh, but back in 2016, where Dak and Zeke completely dominated that game. Like, there was a run play where the center and guard, I can't remember who the guard was. It was on the left side at the time, but basically they two pulled, and basically Travis Frederick led the line, followed by Keith Smith, then followed by Ezekiel Elliott, and Travis Frederick just completely bulldozed some cornerback, literally 10, 15 yards out the way, and it just built up that long gain. I can't remember if it was for the touchdown, but it was like about 40-yard gain or something like that. It was mental. Yeah. But kind of going back to like Hoffman's that type of guy. Like, and the thing is with offensive linemen in general, if they're not talking about you negatively, then you're doing your job. Yeah, that's like are you seeing like because if you're not doing your job correctly, sorry, I don't know if you can hear
ice cream man.
I do apologize, ladies and gentlemen. There's an ice cream truck. It's just appeared, and I can hear it coming from my headset right now. So, and by the time this show is over, I will miss out my opportunity of getting some ice cream. So,
I do apologize for that, Paul. Sorry. I'll send you one in the post. Mate.
Oh yeah, it will just be melted, won't it? but anyway, as I was kind of saying, it's like the only news you would hear from offensive linemen is either contracts or negative news of like holding calls or offsides and stuff like that. Like the only people who will properly big up offensive linemen is the coaches, because that's who really does
players.
And the players, and your quarterback. But in terms of, but from the fan perspective, it's so hard to really dissect that, because they all it's all about those
following the ball.
No, it's not so much fun.
I mean, the fans
no, but what I'm trying to say, mate, is about those clutch moments. You're going to see clutch moments from a running back or a quarterback or a wide receiver. You're not going to see it from an offensive lineman unless one of the offensive linemen is an eligible receiver. That's it.
Oh, God, yeah, I can talk about that one. But here's one I got for you, right, Paul, that I love about this. Is, let's say Hoffman wins the center position role, ends up having a really good season. You go, he's our starting center. You got Cooper Beebe waiting in the wings, but Zach Martin calls it a night. Finishes this season, goes, I'm done.
Beebe, right guard.
There you go. And you go from a solid right guard with Zach Martin.
Away.
Do you see where I'm going with this?
Mm-hmm. No. That to me, that is a good. Like, I think the Cowboys mathematically really thought about
timed
that.
It. Yeah, they timed it.
They've timed that really well, because there was that potential. Okay, we've got a potential to get a guy who was prolifically well known in the guard position at Kansas State, did really well. You can play center if we were to give him the lessons, but it's there as a backup or there for whatever. But if the time is needed, and if Zach Martin was to decide to move away from football and retire, then we've got someone who can just fit straight right in. There we go. And it feels like we've not don't go wrong. It'll be a big loss when Zach Martin decides to call it a day, and he will be in the Ring of Honor in the years to come. He's going to be a Cowboys legend, in my personal opinion. Like, the fact that everyone got so upset, the fact that we didn't pick Johnny Football at the time, but we actually made the smartest choice of picking Zach Martin to try and help Tony Romo at the time. Yeah. And we recreated the Great Wall of Dallas. You had like Frederick, Tylen Smith, Zach Martin, 3 first-round draft picks in that offensive line, and they opened the doors for like DeMarco Murray and Alfred Morris and what's the other Darren McFadden, then Ezekiel Elliott, Run DMC. So like that. The fact that offensive line managed to cater for those guys and really still maybe not so much Alfred Morris, like he was there as a backup, but he still did a good job. But the matter of fact is, it's like we had that best offensive line for a good solid period of 4 years, like end to end. Despite Tyron was still getting injured, we still had the best offensive line in the NFL for those 4 years, pretty much. But I find I've exhausted myself talking about the O-line because everyone knows, because everyone knows. I used to play offensive line and defensive line, so that's my passion. But when I see a good solid pass protection block or a good pancake, I am going to scream my head off. I'm like, yes, that's what I want to see. Or a good spin move or a good cut in block, cut in move, like that's what I thrive on. Like, don't get me wrong, it's great seeing great catches and that, but my focus is just I'm so in the line of scrimmage all the time. And I'm sorry. I can't help myself. I can't help it. But going outside of the line of scrimmages, wide receivers, Mike. So you have been looking at the Cowboys clips and highlights more than I have on obviously due to work reasons. I've not been able to
of course.
But tell me, Mike, who is currently your top 5 wide receivers in terms of who's been the best, who's been the biggest standouts, etc. So just give me your list starting from 5 to number 1.
All right. So if we go backwards then, so we'll say Jim Cropper. He's been quite decent. He offers something as well.
He's at number 5.
Yeah. Or he could be number 6 if you like. We'll go 6. Right. Okay. Because Cropper's just on the outside. He's having to, and mostly because he offers something different the other guys don't. He's a pure slot receiver. So you think what you could do with that and keeping Lamb on the outside. That's some funky work. Then you got Jalen Brooks. Then you got Tyron Billy Johnson, which we'll talk about.
Love him. I really do.
Yeah, he's doing a lot at the moment, and he's looking good. Then you've got Kevontae Turpin. He's been used in a multitude of ways. He's been in the backfield catching deep balls. There's been a number of touchdowns that were scored, especially on Friday, and it was Turpin on the end of it. Then you got Cooks and Talbot, who are closely side by side in what they're doing, and Talbot's looking fantastic. He's looking great, but all this, Paul, is all opened up because CeeDee Lamb is not here still.
See, Lamb not being here is actually going to benefit the likes of Talbot and everybody else, and it's going to and it's going to I know people will complain we need to pay CeeDee Lamb, get him at training camp right now,
and it's true.
It's true, but there's also other positives to think about here.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at last season, right?
Yeah.
When you take CeeDee Lamb out of the equation, our wide receiver core was not up to the same level. It's not.
Agree.
Like now, with CeeDee Lamb not at training camp, it's going to give the chance to players to really elevate themselves and try and get as close to Lamb. And when Lamb comes back, that will have more options to play about with, and rather than not rely on CeeDee Lamb all the time.
True.
And that means, and what I'm trying to say is, when Dak decides to target the likes of Tolbert or Cooks or Billy Johnson or Turpin, whoever that may be, the fact that CeeDee Lamb's not going to be as covered as much, and that means whenever you do throw to Lamb, it should be a more cleaner execution. So I think you just need to turn the initial negative, Lamb not being at camp, blah, 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 but think about the positives for the other players it's going to affect. That is key.
Yeah, definitely. And, to tie in with all of that, the wide receivers have all been stepping up. So is Dak Prescott. I think people are talking about how well Dak has been practicing. I think he's been practicing so well because he's had to evolve to, rather than take chances like he normally would in practice, he's gone, right, let's play this by the book. Let's give these wide receivers a chance. And he's looking on fire. It is not even close between wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2.
He's now at the stage now where he's how old is that now? He's 31?
31, yes, correct.
So he's 31 years old. He's not obviously going to get any younger, right? He still has the legs. He still has the legs. He still has still has a long career ahead of him, regardless. Right? He's still got at least a good 6 or 7 seasons, I think, anyway. But
Tom Brady age,
yeah. That's if he wants to decide to be a pure pocket passer. But what I'm trying to say is Dak's now in that mindset where, if I was to do this, it's going to shorten my career. If I'm going to do that, it's going to shorten my career. So he's like,
True.
I really want to focus on my strength and get to that point where, like, if I do need to leave the bubble, then I'm going to just do it for like just enough where I'm not going to take any damage.
Yeah.
Like, that's where I'm kind of seeing it. Like, he's not going to try and like unless in the game situation that might all change. It's like you might have a clear open field and you have the chance to go for the first down like within inches or something like that. Understandable, but I think that is now in that more reasonable mindset to his approach being a quarterback. And I think now with this contract coming up, I think this is going to play a factor into that as well.
Yeah. And you know, he's been so good. And like you say, I think that the contract thing that has to deal with it too. He's now at an age where he's like, maybe I shouldn't take so many chances in practice like I did in the past. Let's play this like it's a game. Let's get into game mode. Let's do it how I would do it and see how I come along. And that's having an effect. And like him with Cooks is looking much better. Him with Jalen Talbot's looking good. Him with Turpin. And, you know, Billy Johnson is like at the moment, he's, for me, making the roster. He's making the final cut.
Yeah, I strongly believe that as well. But keeping in the subject of quarterbacks, we do need to kind of talk about the negative side.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is Mr. Trey Lance, who we traded for a 4th-round draft pick to bring him on board to basically lead under Dak Prescott. He's basically being a replica version of Dak Prescott, but I'm not going to sound brutal, but it's not really looking that great so far. I'll be perfectly honest. Like, the only great sign I've seen from Trey Lance is basically when he's got the ball and he's actually running upfield from a run pass option. That was it. Yeah, the RPOs. That was it. In terms of him throwing the ball, he's been missing the target quite a lot. It's not very giving you the confidence that he's going to be quarterback number 2, or he should be getting a new contract with Dallas for that reason. I know it's still way too early to say, but the first impressions are not looking that great. Yeah. And to me right now, that's now elevated Cooper Rush back up to number 2.
100%. Yeah. Lance has been all over the place. Zimmer has thrown a few things at him. So he's had like the linebacker from the UFO, Willie UFL. I forget his last name now. Willie. All I got is Tyrone Billy Johnson stuck in my head now. Anyway, he's got the UFL linebacker out there. Drops, he's up to the line, pressing. All of a sudden, the play kicks off, and Zimmer's done it. So he's dropping back and covering center field, if you like, in zone. Lance doesn't see him at all, throws the ball right at him, you know.
Willie Harvey Jr.
Willie Harvey Jr. Thank you very much. It's because I had Junior stuck in there. So, and Willie Harvey drops back, catches the interception. Great for him, because it's great. But he's doing a lot of things, Zimmer, and he's got cornerbacks changing positions. Like they're in position, and all of a sudden, just before the snap, they're floating and they're moving, and it's catching Trey Lance off guard. Dak's reading it perfectly fine. But what you're seeing is basically, if you're trying to make Trey Lance play cerebrally, try and play between the ears, it just falls apart. And that's what you're seeing. And here's the big problem with the passing with Trey Lance. I've mentioned this a number of times. That because you see this with inaccurate quarterbacks. With inaccurate quarterback, when they're worried about their passing, they tend to rather put some touch on the ball and deliver it at a nice pace. They will fire that ball in hard. It's just what they do because they're concerned about the inaccuracy. What you're seeing is on these middle slants and crossovers and seam routes, Trey Lance is firing it in, but he's firing them high, which is dangerous because if the wide receiver tips the ball, trying to catch the ball over his head in that position, it's only going into one place. And that's where there's 2 safeties way in. And that's where these tipped interceptions happen. If you're gonna fire the ball in and you're worried about it, get the ball low or get the ball ahead. Because if it tips, at least it just fumbles in front of the wide receiver or away from, but to fire it high, that's dangerous. And these are dangerous passes. And I think at the moment he's in for a real struggle right now. And I think we're going to have another season where we see him as the quarterback 3 option.
Yeah, like depends how the rest of the camp goes, and this might be a very bold prediction, but we might actually just let him go. Who knows?
I think they'll trade him.
Yeah. It hasn't worked out, but we're not going to get much from him in return. We're not going to get a 4th round back. We're going to play a 7th rounder compensation pick or something. I don't know.
I think they would have like like some sort of trade with a clause in it. If he plays so many snaps, it's like we'll give you a 6th rounder, which goes up to a 5th round pick if he plays X amount of snaps.
Which is fairly going to be unlikely anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, anyway, and as much as I am sad to still bring some bad news to the end of the show, we do need to highlight that Luke Shoemaker, Israel McQuamu, Tyler Guyton, Ryan Flournoy, Deuce Vaughn, and Eric Kendricks missed practice on Friday. Shoemaker, however, he's just not having the best of times, is he?
No. And it was just when he was just starting to get good that there was he was playing the first day of pads was okay. Next day, I mean, Schoonmaker was like really on form. You were seeing these seam routes and running down the middle, score like it was a lethal combination between Dak and Schoonmaker. You were seeing it. You're like, oh, here we go. We're on now. We're seeing Mazzie Smith coming along. Now we're seeing the next pick of last year's draft, Schoonmaker coming along. And then yesterday, we're still waiting for news, but he drops out. The same thing happened with Israel McQuamu very early. Guyton, although we were just talking about him, although he missed time on Friday, it was due to sickness. So it's not like we're worried about a tissue injury or anything like that. Deuce Vaughn and Ryan Flournoy. Flournoy is struggling in terms of getting onto the field at the moment because he's really dealing with some sort of injury, soft tissue injury. Deuce Vaughn, much the same. Eric Kendricks is a bit of a concern. I believe it to be a calf injury. So I think perhaps maybe it's a strain. He's straining it and he's just working his way back. I don't feel like any of these guys are majorly serious. The ones to look out for really is Scooney, McQuamu, and Flournoy at the moment.
Yeah.
The main ones to watch for.
Although I did just lie there, we're not going to end on the note of a sad note at the end of the show. We haven't talked about the most untalked about player in this year's training camp. And this might actually come to a surprise to a lot of you who are watching this and listening to the World's team right now, is Royce Freeman.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, but he's actually been pretty good out there. And I don't think he's been talked about enough, my personal opinion.
I'm with you.
Like he's been running up the inside, looking really fluid. Like I'm actually quite surprised. And now, more that I think about it, if this is the trajectory that he is going right now, I think he'll make the roster, and we might actually see a surprise, and we might see a surprise cut going into this year.
Yeah,
it's very possible.
I'm with you. What if, right? And this is something I've been thinking about since yesterday's practice, seeing Freeman really doing fantastically well. He's all right. You could talk about his running style, which, leaves you worried about injuries. But okay, whatever. It's the running back position. Injuries happen in that position. But I was thinking about this, that like you were saying, that what if Freeman makes the cut? Who would I drop? Do you know who I'm dropping? Deuce Vaughn.
Yeah. Sadly, yeah. Like, don't get me wrong, it was a beautiful moment when we drafted him because his dad, is part of our actual front office essentially, and it was a good father-son moment. But end of the day, it's a business. If the player's not making the most out of the situation and getting onto the field and contributing as much, then you need to find an alternative. And I like this Vaughn. I thought he was great at Kansas State.
Yeah,
like I loved him to bits. I thought he was like a very underestimated pick. I thought, oh, that could work out. Could be something different.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But so far, it's not really kind of panned out that way, and I'm sad to say. I find that will be the the cut. I totally agree with you, Mike.
Mate, I hate to say this, but it's true. Size matters. And unfortunately, Deuce Vaughn is so undersized. It's hard to find a way to... Like, he is the shortest player in the NFL right now, currently. Yeah. So it's hard to find a defined role for him. If he can make it on special teams, that's the way. But it's tough. And especially when Hunter Lipke is having a good camp too. You're kind of like, well, there's Dowdle. We just talked about Freeman winning the most untalked about award right now. You've got Zeke, who's doing his thing. And then all of a sudden, Lipke's coming up and he's doing what he needs to do. You're kind of like, are we really carrying 5 running backs?
I really don't know. Like, it's going to be very interesting to see what pans out in the next couple of weeks. I think we're going to get a more clearer idea in this first preseason game against the LA Rams. I think we'll get a more clear indication of... The
lines will become less fuzzy.
Yes. Right now, it's pretty much a free-for-all right now. And I think the coaches kind of realize that it's like, we've got, like, I like to keep him, etc. But
you can't keep them all.
I know, but it's at that stage where, like, we don't know what the priority is yet. As of yet, we'll find out in a game situation. So,
sure.
But yes, it's now time for Mike's little segment of the show, our final part of the show. Mike, hit me with it.
All right, it's the Would You Rather. Let us know in the comments at home whether wherever you're watching the show or listening to it. Put in the comments, would you rather, and who you would take. So, Paul, this week it is the wide receiver 4 position. So we know who the top 3 are, because we include CeeDee Lamb in all of this. So who's wide receiver 4 right now for you? Is it Kevontae Turpin or Tyrell Billy Johnson?
See, I'm willing to take the gamble on this, right? We know what Turpin's like, and yes, he's had a good training camp so far, but that means to say that Billy Johnson's not had, like, he's had a great training camp as well, but he's got more to prove out there. So I'm willing to make the gamble on this and give Billy Johnson the opportunity.
Interesting.
Because you have a good fallback with Turpin when it comes to special teams. And having him as a slot or whatever, or as a screen catch, like
from the backfield,
exactly. So you can still utilize him in that regard. But for likes of Billy Johnson, it's like you can actually utilize him as a good backup to likes of Cooks or Lamb or whatever. Like he can do. I think that would be quite a good back that. How would I describe it?
He offers you more on offense in terms of versatility.
Yeah, like not so much the versatility, but it goes back to the point I was talking about. Without CeeDee Lamb, it's that level.
Yeah,
like with Billy Johnson rising up and really getting his name on notice, it's like I think, and I'm not saying he's like a first round 5-star recruit or anything. I'm not saying that. I'm basically trying to say this guy seems to take, when given the opportunity, he will take it. And I think if he was given the opportunity at wide receiver 4, I think we can see some really crazy things with Billy Johnson. So I'm willing to take the gamble on it.
I like it. All right, I'll go with that, mate. I like that.
But yes, folks, that is the end of this week's podcast. Be sure to follow us on social media. You can obviously check us out on YouTube, follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Twitter at the World's Team, Instagram at the World's Team. But yes, before we do go, Mike, tell us where everyone can find you.
You can find me on Twitter at Kenfig Cowboy. Kenfig with a K, Cowboy with a K. And where can they find you, Mr. Paul?
You can find me at I am P-Stew on X and Instagram. But yes, folks, like I said, this is the end of the show. We will be back next week for week 3 of training camp. And yeah, covering more news. Hopefully, you can actually digest of where the squad is going to go in the direction. And we're going to have 5 wide receivers, 5 running backs, like Mike was kind of saying there. Who knows? But yes, until then, it's not just the America's team, it is the world's team. See you guys next time.
You've been listening to the World's Team Podcast. There's no other team like it in the world. Nothing more electrifying than the Dallas Cowboys. And we're here to prove it. We bring in fan groups from Germany, France, Brazil, the UK, Canada, Japan. We're everywhere, baby. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, find us on Instagram at the.worlds.team, on Twitter at the_worlds_team, and on YouTube at the Worlds Team. How about them Cowboys?
And the only thing else I got to say is, how about them Cowboys?
See you next time.